Get up off of that thing and shake till you feel better. Get up off of that thing and shake till say it now. Get up off of that thing and shake till you feel better.
Potato, potato, tomato, tomato.
Oh crap, that's right. I forgot to tell him.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan. Renee Zellweger has abnormal foot fungi.
Hey buddy, you're all ready to go, aren't you?
Duh, break has been too long. And we're talking about Star Wars, Tarantino, and DiCaprio. Why wouldn't you be?
Dude, no one's coming tonight.
What do you mean? Why?
Because it's syllabus week. Everybody's in a lazy coma, still getting over for break, and besides, you and I usually get sick at this time of year. Nobody wants to touch us.
Oh my God, you're so overdramatic. We're both fine. All right, Penny, for your thoughts. Does that look like blood to you?
Okay. Well, by the time you're watching this, The Middle Seats is back for their Season 5 premiere. And this week, it's pretty much all reviews.
That's right. We're covering the biggest movies of the break. We got Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, we got Iñárritu's The Revenant, and we're getting to Star Wars.
It's a brand new Middle Seats, and it starts
Now. See? I'm fine.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Andrew Auger.
I'm Jake Hensler.
The Middle Seats is the highest grossing entertainment show ever in Marist College
We're
history.
grossing now?
We're grossing.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know. By the way, that tree was the biggest contribution Jake's ever made to the show. It's my favorite thing he's ever done. I love it.
Are there like TV gods that are gonna smite you one day?
Gods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just world religions is getting to me.
You think there's a TV? I just broke my pen.
Hey, yeah.
We're off to a great start here. How was your break?
Lazy. My boss, conveniently for me, texted me one time, and it was the one time I couldn't work. It was too short notice, so I did nothing but lay in bed and watch Netflix and caught up on movies. So it was a good break.
Did you make any money at all?
I guess not. So that's the downside, but things happen.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Want to talk about like my break, how much I watched, just like...
Please tell the world.
So Jake, every once in a while, at like 3:30 in the morning, we get like, this movie sucked, and just like a text from me, and he'd be like, dude, why? Like, why are you up at this part?
So I'll go into more detail, and I'll wake up to a text that was sent at 4, 5 paragraphs saying how bad it was. And then I'll ask him why, and he'll be like, oh, that's not even the worst of it, and list 5 other movies he watched that night, and I still don't understand how or why. But
because I have no life,
what was
that's why.
What was the breakdown you did? Wasn't it like 4 days where you watched 5 movies in a row?
It was like it was a cram session to the end of 2015, because I have I'm a completist. I feel like I need to watch as much as possible to have an accurate list. So it was 4 or 5 per day for 4 days straight, and maybe one of them was better than a 6 out of 10. It just hurt. It hurt like a lot. But we have some interesting ones to talk about today.
We have some very good ones.
The big ones.
Today. The big ones.
And that makes us forego our usual top 5. So instead of a traditional look at the news this week, we're foregoing that top 5 in favor at a look back at the world of movies during this winter break.
Oh yes. MCTV's own Kelly Curtin was kind enough to help us out with this next segment, simply called What You Missed Over Break.
2015 came and went faster than a speeding bullet, with new films being released left and right, and news dropping faster than a slacking college student's GPA.
I'm really sorry. You have no idea. So many people do bad things and I didn't.
There was a lot that we did cover this year, but for what we missed over the holiday break, here's your recap. All eyes in the movie world were focused on the return of one of Hollywood's most popular franchises, a moneymaker for the industry with legions of loyal fans who like to dress up in costumes as their favorite characters. But enough said about Alvin and the Chipmunks franchise. Let's talk Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Not only was the film beloved by fans and critics alike, but it passed Avatar as the highest-grossing film of all time in the United States. Avatar may still be king of the worldwide box office, but Star Wars runs the show, taking Christmas 2017 away from Avatar 2 in one of those patented Mickey Mouse power moves. In fact, Star Wars made so much money, it forced the average ticket price to jump to an all-time high.
You don't talk to me like that, you little piece of sh**.
There were more movies besides Star Wars that came out, though, lest we forget. The Revenant showed how far Leo will go inside of a horse carcass to dig for that Oscar. Kevin Hart yelled a lot, and Ice Cube stared at him angrily in the ride-along, too. And as for Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg's Daddy's Home, well... Anyways, January usually means award season 2. While Ricky Gervais and Mel Gibson made everyone wonder what Lethal Weapon would look like with present-day Mel Gibson, The Revenant and The Martian took home the big awards. You know, The Martian, the funniest space paranoia drama of the year.
Evacuation.
The Revenant's not the front-runner for Best Picture, though, with Spotlight and The Big Short duking it out mano-a-mano. Spotlight's been the favorite all along, but The Big Short won the PGA. And then there's Mad Max 2 as a dark horse. Who's going to win the Oscar?
Procedure, everyone. What's the procedure?
Stay calm! Wait. Everybody calm down!
Well, the Oscars is having its own problems right now, with issues of diversity and bias being called into question. We could go into further detail, but since this is a developing story, we thought this clip would sum it up nicely.
Action.
From the good movies to the bad, films like Pixels, Ridiculous 6, and The Cobbler earned Razzie nominations, so Adam Sandler had a good year. Fantastic Four was apparently so bad that the comics are being canceled. Not so fantastic anymore, are we? We got our first look at Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, then DC countered with a new Suicide Squad trailer, and then Star Wars fans wanted George Lucas back for Episode 9? Ugh, take it Ryan Reynolds.
Why?
We lost 3 great talents in David Bowie, Alan Rickman, and Abe Vigoda. How long will these tremendous actors' legacies last? In the words of Mr. Rickman's Severus Snape.
After all this time. Always.
So what's to look forward to? Batman vs. Superman, Civil War, Rogue One, Deadpool, Hail Caesar, The Jungle Book, Finding Dory, Independence Day 2, X-Men Apocalypse, and
John C.
I guess that too. That's it for me. I'm Kelly Curtin, and that's what you missed over break.
Thank you so much for that, Kelly, that recap, that great recap. We missed a lot.
We did. There was a lot going on.
It's crazy how much, like, we go through the cycle every week, you know, and we talk about movies every week, and we're trying to catch up with all the stories,
Yeah.
but you just go away for a month. You don't realize how much, and we went through, and this is still, like, a lot that we left out.
Yeah, I think out of all the things that were just shown, the thing I want to bring up first is that Suicide Squad trailer.
Yes.
Because, wow, not only the editing, the way it matches the pace of action is awesome, but the footage they have is just, it looks so good.
It's unbelievable.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the editing or the footage too.
Yeah.
I wonder if the footage is actually that good or if it just like Bohemian Rhapsody is just a killer song.
Because I really, really love that song. So
I
that
do.
might
It's
help.
it's an amazing song, and
Yeah.
everything times well to it. I bet.
I gotta go with the bullets falling.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's talk
So,
a little.
yeah, let's go on.
Let's talk a little bit about Oscar controversy, just a tiny bit. It's a delicate issue. It's an issue that needs to be covered and addressed.
Yes.
Is this the year to cover it and address it? I'm not sure because I don't know if I agree. This has been a very competitive field this year, and I don't know if I necessarily agree that okay, this is the year that this issue needs to be brought up, but last year we were talking about this all the time.
Yeah.
Selma is a huge, groundbreaking film about race and diversity and such like that, and then you basically shut it out. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. The tough part about this year is I feel like it has been an ongoing thing, but I don't disagree with a lot of the nominations, and it's not because of what race they are, if they deserve it or don't. I think a lot of the people who were nominated did deserve it. As far as supporting actor goes, I personally would put Benicio del Toro from Sicario in there, and Jacob Tremblay from Room. That's just
But
my
that's your
opinion,
own
but, like,
personal pick. That does nothing
right.
to do with any outside
Right, I
factors
think
and stuff like that.
Creed getting snubbed is pretty insane.
Yeah.
Compton, I don't know if it was ever going to get any acting. As far, in my opinion, I don't
Well,
even
here's
think
the
it was
thing.
ever going to get.
Here's the
acting.
bigger issue to me. It's less about race and diversity. It's that the Academy is a bunch of old people who are out of touch with what people like. You know,
Yes, they're not
Star Wars was
recognizing
one of the
Netflix.
biggest movies of the year, and I'm not saying it should win Best Picture or anything like that, but it needs to at least be closer to the running. Straight Outta Compton should have probably gotten a Best Picture nomination for as much success that it's had
disagree.
and how much critical acclaim it got. You know?
Yeah.
So that's the issue here, I think, personally.
Yeah, and the fact that they made this rule that they can nominate 10, and they still only nominated 8.
Yeah.
They could
They
have
have
nominated
spots,
Straight Outta
is the
Compton and
thing.
Creed, which I
Yeah.
would have been happy with both.
Anyways, yeah, this is still a developing issue, and the
Yeah.
boycott
There's a lot
issue
going
is still
on.
going on, and probably going to get you up to speed in the next few weeks. But for now, that's the news for the weekend. It's time to get into today's triple review extravaganza. We're going to start with our review of Alejandro Iñárritu's The Revenant. Go ahead, Jake.
All right, thanks, Andrew. Have you ever stubbed your pinky toe so bad that there's about a 10-second period where you think you may need to go to the emergency room? Or have forgotten to warm up your car before going to work on a brisk January morning? Came to a conclusion that hell is actually an icy cold place instead of a fiery hot one? What about when you have to stand on a line at Disney World for 4 hours and debate why you even went in the first place, only to see the people with the fast pass and then begin to contemplate murder? Well, The Revenant is the type of movie to make you think twice about all of those kinds of moments and situations. Set in the 1820s, this group of fur traders battle a lot more than not having their heated seats already warm when they get in their means for transportation, which is briefly a boat and then mostly on foot, especially for our protagonist, Hugh Glass, played by the beloved Leonardo DiCaprio. Glass is a fur trapper on the expedition with his son and other members trying to make a living. After accidentally and unfortunately stumbling upon some bear cubs, he is gruesomely mauled by the mother bear and found by the rest of the crew. The group leader, Captain Andrew Henry, played by Domhnall Gleeson, refuses to leave him behind because it would inevitably kill him, but they can't carry him through the snowy mountains back to their base either. So until they can get the proper means to bring him back, they leave his practically unconscious, mutilated, but still breathing body with his son Hawk, played by Forrest Goodluck, and 2 crew members, Bridger, played by Will Poulter, and John Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy. Long story short, he is in fact left for dead, and the rest is quite literally history, if you believe it. Speaking of a long story short, there is something to be said about the length. While the story can be a little slow at times, don't mistake it for boring. The scenes of Glass's survival take up much of the middle of the film, but are completely necessary. Other than that and sometimes irrelevant background information, I found the film to be filled with positives. Director Alejandro Iñárritu and cinematographer Emmanuel Lubezki are now 2 for 2 in the last 2 years for me. Their vision and rigorous filming style not only gets great work from the entire ensemble, but leaves the viewer in awe with what they get from the camera. There is some of the Birdman long take style in The Revenant, and it works, but it's thankfully not the entire movie. It's okay to have unique style, but not to replicate each movie with the same filming style. Despite the long takes they shoot, if you heard someone say that every shot could be framed on a wall, they're right. There isn't a moment where the film doesn't visually look incredible. They replaced the city skyscrapers of Birdman and replaced it with breathtaking landscapes. Not using any green screens, or artificial lighting was definitely the way to go, no matter how difficult it proved to be. The filming on location was not just to make the movie look pretty, however. It proved to be very effective in many ways. It helps establish what kind of environment the characters are dealing with, like when we simply but beautifully see two mountain peaks with an ant-sized figure in the middle. The camera moves closer and closer on this character until we not only see that it is our protagonist, but it also shows us how alone he is, where he is in retrospect to anything and anyone else, and how far he still has to go. Besides these establishing shots, they get better performances too. DiCaprio is often considered to be one of the best actors of our generation. I won't dispute that. But he's at the top of our game here. One of Hollywood's biggest rising stars, Hardy, is at the top of his game as well, and all the side characters are great too. Whether it's the young Poulter, the up-and-coming Gleason, or simply a member of the Pawnee Indian tribe, everyone is very good. DiCaprio is getting a lot of talk for enduring the harsh conditions, eating raw bison liver, and things of that nature, no pun intended. But he isn't good because he puts himself through some of difficult obstacles. He turns in a really good performance as well. We lose the yelling, the good looks, charm, and the overall typical DiCaprio swagger that we see in a lot of his performances, no matter how good he is. This is as far from knowing it's DiCaprio on screen as Gilbert Grape. The rest is just cringeworthy eye candy. Hardy ends up being a great villain, and for lack of a better word, a real bastard. Everyone knows someone like this character he plays too, which makes it that more hateable. In a good way, though. The Revenant is one of the most realistic feeling movies I've ever seen, with some great direction from its survival scenes to its action, and they often cross paths. I'd love to see Hardy get nominated. He did. It's DiCaprio's year to lose, and as far as the last 2 years go, I'm becoming a very big Iñárritu fan. There are too many good things to say about his last two films, and I can talk about them for days. But next time you stub your toe, get a little cold, have to wait in line, or even if it's all three, remember that you weren't mauled by a bear, left for dead in the freezing cold winters of Montana and South Dakota, nor were you forced to live off the land, avoiding murderous Indian tribes, all while trekking back to base alone on foot, once it healed properly, that is.
We're mostly in agreement here, absolutely. I'm very enthusiastic about the film, I think. I think it's a very, very good film, and I think it's one of the better ones of the year. I agree, 100%. I think there are things that it does better than other things, you know, if that makes sense. It's not as great as a cohesive whole as I would have liked, but there are some, the things it does well, it does amazingly well. As like a survival revenge thriller, it's one of the best I've ever seen as far as that element goes.
It's amazing.
Putting DiCaprio through the ringer over and over again, and he's phenomenal. This should be his year, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
just as physical, how physical and like quiet his performance is at the same time, which is a very tough, delicate balance to cross. He nails that balance.
Yeah, he does. And a lot of people are kind of mixed, or I know a lot of people who really didn't like it at all. And I think it's the kind of movie you kind of have to know what you're getting into, and you have to be in the mood for it too.
Because
it's not just something you can pick
You're
up.
really right. The second act kind of really slows down.
It does.
I mean, it never is boring, I agree.
Yeah.
It really slows down, and it's kind of a jarring shift to go through because the first act has one or two big, huge action set pieces that you have to deal with.
Amazing.
There's a huge attack. That's one of my favorite scenes of the film. And then the bear mauling scene, which is basically all one shot. Insane. Amazing special effects. Really well done. But having said that, there's a lot that you have to be able to process here that some of it doesn't connect with me, like a lot of the spiritual stuff that they're trying to go through.
Sometimes they do it, and then sometimes they don't follow through with it, so it just kind of comes and goes.
Yeah,
and it doesn't bother me. I don't think it hurts the movie in any way, but it's just kind of, it doesn't always feel in place.
And it's not fair to say they don't commit, but per se, because they do commit, because the whole movie has a very spiritual undertone to it, especially with the Navajo and how big of a role that they play. But having said that, it's just not an element that worked as well for me as the just survival. Hardy is the destination, DiCaprio is the pursuer part of it.
And it's
you know?
just great.
And Hardy is excellent.
He really is.
They gave Hardy the big dialogue that DiCaprio usually has, and he just chews it up. He's this slimy wheezeball, and you're right. This is a guy that everybody knows.
His lines, the way he delivers them, he's kind of like this arrogant, I know what's right, I know what's best, and he kind of throws it in your face. He's really just annoying about it. Everybody knows somebody like him, and he nails it. But to the point where he's like, you hate him. And I think because of, it is DiCaprio's movie, and because it's more focused on him and more of what DiCaprio does, that some people overshadow Hardy a little bit. But I think Hardy's great. I think it's one of his best.
Yeah, and he really knows how to get under your skin, too. He's one of the best at doing that.
Yeah.
So let's talk ratings and final thoughts and stuff. I want to talk about Lubieski and just how beautiful the film looks. You talked about the natural. Did you talk about the natural light? I think you did,
I
right?
briefly mentioned it, yeah.
But the film has no artificial lighting, so there's no any kind of lights that are shining on us right now.
Sun, moon, candle,
Campfire. Unbelievable.
That's it. It's
Unbelievable.
awesome.
Just how much, and that has to do with a lot of the angles that they use and the cameras they use and everything. And it's just unbelievable what Lubieski is able to
Do you think
accomplish here.
he's kind of revolutionizing the film industry a little bit with what he's doing?
I think there are other people doing what he's doing, but nobody's
just
doing
the
on
best.
big a scale as he is. I think
Fair enough.
so I wouldn't say he's revolutionizing. I think that's a little bit of a hyperbolic word, but I think he is at the forefront of this revolution.
Right.
Because we're talking about like the one-shot thing, and there's another movie that one of our friends was recommending to us called
Victoria, right,
Victoria
yeah.
that does the one-shot thing, but actually does the one-shot thing.
Right.
But anyways, I gave it an 8.5. I know you gave it a 9.
I was a 9. I was when I saw this movie, I did not have that many negatives. I know a lot of people complained about the length. I personally didn't mind the length. I
don't think it's too long. I think it ends a little bit with a whimper. Personally, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a huge fan of the ending.
I think the ending was fine too. I would rather see the 2.5 hour movie with all of DiCaprio's survival that we got instead of a 1:45 movie just saying, yeah, he did, and then this is what happens after.
Yeah, because there's too many
Way
things he
too much
goes
going
through
on.
where the gaps would just not make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is absolutely deserves to be in the Oscar conversation. I don't think it should be the front runner or anything. I think
No.
it should win technical awards. I think DiCaprio should win. But other than that, I don't think it's going to win Best Picture.
No, I don't think so either. And actually, fun fact I had shared with you, the last movie to win Best Picture that wasn't at all nominated for a screenplay was Titanic.
Yeah.
And before that, I think, was Sound of Music in the 60s.
Yeah.
So and Revenant wasn't nominated for screenplay, so it's probably not going to win.
Yeah, probably not going to win. We'll talk more about our favorite
Yeah,
films
we will.
next week.
So that's one down, and we got 2 to go. The next one is big, and it's meaty. And in our second act, it's Star Wars The Force Awakens, all for Andrew.
Thank you. With the level of creative influence that Star Wars The Force Awakens has had over the industry over the past 48 years, it's only fitting that Star Wars The Force Awakens has a high level of reflexivity. The first forward-moving sequel in the franchise is 1983's Return of the Jedi. Fans have eagerly been anticipating the chance to see what happens next in the story of Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, Han Solo, played by Harrison Ford, Princess Leia, played by Carrie Fisher, and the rest of the characters in a galaxy far, far away. In an interview about The Force Awakens, Hamill talked about the future of the franchise, saying, quote, "Nothing's changed, yet everything's changed." For a film that's been so shrouded in secrecy, the biggest surprise of The Force Awakens is its ability to look forward and backwards in one simultaneous jolt. This is director J.J. Abrams holding a mirror up to the series, reminding the audience of what worked about Star Wars in the first place and what he must adjust in preparing for what's to come. In many ways, Abrams reflects the kind of ultimate modern blockbuster director that the Star Wars franchise has been looking for. There's a visual sleekness to his films that look polished, clean, and appealing, and similar to a smartphone. You know, Abrams' smartphone, kind of Star Trek, Doesn't make any sense. He moves through action set pieces with a controlled freneticism that grasps at the breast of the viewer like one of Darth Vader's patented force chokes. He establishes a broad sense of humor to his films that are meant to lighten the tension just a tad. None of this is necessarily a bad thing, but for what is a property that is so distinctly realized as Star Wars, the attempt to modern up things could have been distracting. Thankfully, Abrams is also a scholar of all things Star Wars and understands what the legions of fans want to see when they purchase a ticket to a Star Wars film. He possesses a sensibility and awareness that even series creator George Lucas has lost in his waning years, and that is the key to the overwhelming success of The Force Awakens. Similar to what Abrams accomplished with his reboot of the Star Trek franchise, The Force Awakens is essentially Star Wars' greatest hits with a modern facelift. I'm not going to say much about the story, lest you're reading this or watching this and one of the 3 people on the planet who have still not seen the film. The script framework, written by Abrams and series veteran Lawrence Kasdan from a first draft by Michael Arndt, follows the essential beats of 1977's A New Hope. 30 years after Return of the Jedi, the struggle between good and evil has resurfaced, with the Resistance and the First Order standing in for the Rebellion and the Empire. The dynamics have changed as good reigns supreme for now, but the power-hungry fascism of the First Order looms large. We spend a sizable amount of time on the desert landscape Jakku, wistfully reminding us of the rugged, grimy planet of Tatooine where the Skywalker family grew up. There's more business to attend to regarding an important droid with important information that serves as a MacGuffin to get our characters where they need to go. This time, the droid is an adorable piece of marketing merchandising known as BB-8. We eventually visit a revisionist version of the Mos Eisley Cantina, the film's biggest showcase of the highly publicized combination of practical and computer generation alien background dressing. Slowly but surely, the similarities and references become more apparent as Abrams takes his time to get to the reveal of some of the most beloved keystones of the franchise, like the Millennium Falcon or Han Solo himself. At times, the reverence is distracting. There are one or two moments where the film just stops in its tracks to prod at the nostalgia, like the subject of idolization. There are plenty of story lapses and plot mechanics that don't fit if you're digging deep for them, but the Star Wars series has always worked better when looked upon with broad brushstrokes, and The Force Awakens fires on all cylinders in those respects. By the time we are reintroduced to all of our favorite characters in appropriately tearful and reminiscent fashion, the wheels are churning. Speaking of the new major characters, Abram and Kasdan's point of inception for them seems to be a newer, fresher representation of the archetypes of the past. Luckily, the excellent performers add enough panache and modern 21st century energy to avoid a more overt mimicry. While mostly an ensemble piece, our protagonist is Rey, played by newcomer Daisy Ridley, an emotive, expressive revelation in her first film role, a scavenger who lives on Jakku and encounters BB-8. The droid belongs to Poe Dameron, played by Oscar Isaac, infinitely charming, the best fighter pilot in the Resistance. They all cross paths with Finn, John Boyega, perfect in comedic and dramatic peaks. A rogue stormtrooper is turned away from the First Order due to a traumatizing case of a soldier's conscience. They are all being hunted by Kylo Ren, played by Adam Driver, who is vulnerable but menacing, a temperamental fanatic of the dark side whose past is one of the key mysteries of the film. The Force Awakens is an old-fashioned adventure with the spectacle of a new-age blockbuster. It may be the most accessible film in the franchise to general audiences, but it doesn't sacrifice what the fans love the most about the series. When the computer-generated Millennium Falcon zooms through tiny crevices while the dynamic camera follows every swoop and whirl, as John Williams' nostalgic score blasts through the speakers, everything feels serenely precise. The glue that secures the strength of that connection is Ford, who gives a phenomenal performance in support of his sprightly co-stars. As Han Solo sets out on new adventures with this new generation of heroes, Abrams grips us with the infinite possibilities ahead. By the end of The Force Awakens, I wanted to re-engage with the original trilogy while also speculate what will happen next. That's possibly the best compliment I can give a film with as much riding on its success as this one. The Force Awakens truly does give fans a new hope and delivers an entertainment adventure to satisfy a new generation of Star Wars enthusiasts.
Technology never likes to work the first episode, does
Nope.
it?
No, it doesn't.
Slight technical difficulties in the beginning, and not to mention there were no clips to break up Andrew's review.
Because of the
marketing-
secrecy of the marketing.
Yeah, the marketing was so secret and shouted in mystery ways that we couldn't even get a clip for this. There was only a couple trailers, so really well done, Andrew. But moving on, I don't know if we want to talk too much about the story, just because I'm sure everybody's talked about it.
I think what I covered it should be enough.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk any specifics or anything like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even really necessary.
I just want to know generally, what did you think?
I wouldn't say I was blown away. I was definitely not disappointed by any means. I think it was another real rock-solid entry in the Star Wars saga. I thought it was really good. Spoiler, I gave it an 8 out of 10, really, really strong 8 out of 10. This is kind of how I feel. I think it's really good. It is similar to A New Hope, but I don't think there's a problem with that.
We agreed no spoilers.
What?
We agreed no spoilers.
Oh, whatever. But I think the direction...
He doesn't understand me.
No. And I think the direction they're going in is going to be really, really good.
I agree.
I see a lot of potential in the future.
I think this works really well as a table setter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's not much to actually say about it, to be completely
unless you wanna
honest.
discuss
It's a
the
really
story,
entertainment blockbuster.
Yeah,
Like,
unless we want to discuss the story, which we're not going to. There's no need.
there's no need to, because what happens next is, I gave it an 8.5. To be completely honest, it's great action scenes, great acting. It just gives the franchise a jolt that it needed,
And I agree with you with Ford. Ford is really, really...
He's really good.
He's incredible as Han Solo.
This might be the best acting he's done as Han Solo.
it's
If that
up
makes
there.
sense. He's the character. He's always been the character, and he's always been great
Yeah.
as the character. But
Yeah.
when asked to pull emotional chops and dramatic chops and comedic chops, this might be the best that he's ever been.
Yeah, and obviously he's always incredibly charming as Han Solo. I'm very curious to see who they pick for a young Han Solo in the spinoff, because you're gonna have to nail it.
I wish no one, but that's a
Yeah.
separate discussion. I think this is a very good film, and I think it
it's very
deserves
good.
to be doing as well as it is.
Yep. Yeah, agreed.
And I think that's all I have to say about it, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm
all
kinda-
this hype, and that we literally took maybe 2.5 minutes.
Look at that.
I think Episode 8, the way that it's going, we'll have a lot more to say.
I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, there's still a lot of stuff shrouded in cloud. So
Shrouded in Cloud.
is shrouded a word? It's a
Shrouded in
word,
Cloud,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I think we got
Just
our
making
title.
sure.
I think we got
I
our
thought I
title of
made
the
that up.
episode. Well, here it is, the finale, and boy, are we gonna go out with a bang. It's Tarantino, and it's The Hateful Eight.
Oh boy. All right. So as I reflect on the latest Tarantino film, I find myself pondering, can there be a such thing as too much Tarantino? In one of his own films, that is. Now, being that Mr. Tarantino is probably my favorite director, you may believe I'm biased. You may be right. But for now, I'm answering my own question with maybe, because I have yet to come to a conclusion. But upon talking to the voices in my head, I have come to realize why I asked myself this question in the first place. Tarantino's 8th film, appropriately titled The Hateful Eight, is lower tier for the famed director, but still upper echelon of 2015. Hateful Eight feels like a mixture of Reservoir Dogs and 2012's Django Unchained. The majority of the film takes place inside one large room, while the setting and blood splatter is most definitely Django-esque. As far as this room and setting goes, it takes place mostly in Minnie's haberdashery, where we find a little more than 8 characters cooped up inside due to the harsh blizzard among them. This is the part that makes me wonder, however, as to why Tarantino decided to film in his glorious 70mm and then keep the story secluded to a confined space indoors. Don't get me wrong, the landscape shots are beautiful as expected, and everything does have a crisp and clean look to it, but was it worth it when the majority of the shooting took place in a cabin-like building? Now, because this isn't just any director we're talking about here, this is a man who not only confines great talent to one room, but even has the guts to confine one actor to a chair for the entirety of the film. He also makes this a 3-hour event with an intermission, and quite frankly, does pretty much whatever he wants. Tarantino is one of the most stylized directors in the business, and you better believe his vision is unlike any other. This leads me to an aspect of the film that first made me ponder the question in the beginning. Is there too much Tarantino in a Tarantino film? I don't know, but there is certainly an excess of blood and gore. Now, duh, of course there is, but The Hateful Eight is different. The Bride in Kill Bill may have massacred 88 warriors in a restaurant for revenge, and Django shot a whole plantation to smithereens, but this is different. What those two films have that Hateful Eight does not have is that fun atmosphere to it. Where Kill Bill and Django are over the top, you can't help but grin in a guilty but awing fashion at the former two. For the newest installment, it's as bloody or more so, but you don't necessarily have as much fun with it as Tarantino was so expertly captured in his previous films. I love when Marvin gets shot in the face. I love Donnie Donowitz cracking skulls with a baseball bat. I didn't necessarily love the violence in this film. It's much heavier, and it's cringe-filled a lot more than usual.
I see you ain't got mixed emotions about bringing a woman to a rope.
By woman, you mean her? No, I do not have mixed emotions.
So you taking her in the Red Rock to hang?
You bet.
You gonna wait around and watch it?
Oh, you know I am. I want to hear her neck snap with my own 2 ears. You never wait to watch him hang?
My bound is never hang, because I never bring him in alive.
Never.
Never, ever. We talked about this in Chattanooga. Bringing desperate men in alive is a good way to get yourself dead.
Can't catch me sleeping if I don't close my eyes.
I don't want to work that hard.
No one said a job's supposed to be easy.
No one said it's supposed to be that hard, neither. It's that little lady. That's why they call him the hangman. When the handbill says dead or alive, the rest of us shoot you in the back up on top of a perch somewhere and bring you in dead over a saddle. But when John Roof, the hangman, catches you, you don't dive no bullet in the back. Mm-mm. When the hangman catches you, you hang.
All that being said, if you've ever enjoyed a good game of Clue, then you may enjoy this movie after all. Yes, it's over the top in every sense it can be, from its racial slurs to its violence to its runtime. It's still an entertaining film nonetheless, and it really does unfold like we're watching a game of Clue, where when you're playing it, it may have been Colonel Mustard in the library with the screwdriver. This movie is kind of like watching that end result happen from the beginning and all the way throughout. We watch these 8+ characters build endless tension with one another until they all decide to let loose in this cold night from hell. Tarantino proves he's one of the best at writing characters and dialogue. Every person we meet speaks in a way that only Tarantino can make them, and as a fan, I loved every moment of those scenes regardless of the runtime. I enjoyed every conversation each character had, and not only are there no bad characters, there are no bad performances either. Jennifer Jason Leigh has just received the Best Supporting Actress nomination, and rightfully so. Her capability to take a beating as well as out-crazy the big boys proves to be nomination-worthy as the murderous outlaw Daisy Domergue. Samuel L. Jackson is the overall lead in this A-game ensemble. The Civil War surviving, badass bounty hunting, smooth-talking man with an experienced and clever mind is another great character to add to the books, and Jackson proves once again that he gives his best work when working with his frequent collaborator. And if you want to talk about who gets good performances out of who, we got Michael Madsen back and turning in some decent stuff. He plays Joe Gage, the quiet cowboy who also happens to be a tough guy on his way home to Mama. The list goes on with a good performance from Tim Roth, who evidently seems like he's stuck in a role written for Christoph Waltz. We get some great stuff from Kurt Russell as John Ruth, or the Hangman, who has captured Domergue. And then Walter Goggins, Bruce Dern, and Damien Bachur round up the last of these Hateful Eight men. All good in their respective performances as well. With a rich and original score from Ennio Morricone, great visuals and camera work, and all around a great ensemble piece, if you're this filmmaker's fan, then you should definitely see it. It's not that it's too Tarantino, it's that it's too excessive in everything it does, and a few wisecracks and jokes aren't enough to lighten the mood. Almost makes one wonder if he used this beautiful 70mm format just to glorify the excess violence he's giving us. And knowing the writer-director, would it even surprise you?
Again, on the same page mostly here.
We were pretty much on the same page.
Yeah, we saw this one. So let's talk about the story of how we went and saw this. We went and saw the Roadshow in New York City over break.
Yeah, really cool.
Which is a really cool experience, and once in a lifetime, kind of very unique.
Yeah, it doesn't happen a lot.
It doesn't happen a lot. It used to happen a lot.
Yeah.
Not anymore. But now that we've experienced something like that, it's awesome. I think it's great.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm really, really glad I did it. You're a madman. You did Revenant the same day.
I did Revenant that same morning, yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I mean, like, I was trying to get it all done before so I could do my list.
Right.
Yeah, but it ended up actually mattering because I procrastinated the whole time.
Same.
Anyways,
That's
as far as the actual movie goes, I think we're on the same page here. I think it's lower echelon Tarantino. I think it's somewhere in the middle of his. But I still enjoyed it. I still think it was really good.
still really good. It's not like, I didn't dislike it by any means. I would watch it again.
Yeah.
It's just, it was a little, I was hoping for a little bit better.
It's certainly a tale of two halves. Now, the first half moves very slowly, and it sets things up, and it's important setup and stuff. So the second act, exploitation and explosion and gore and blood and guts and everything.
And blah, blah, blah.
It kind of justifies that long first half. But it's still a long first half, and Tarantino, always my biggest problem with Tarantino is that he needs an editor. He needs a really good editor, and he used to have one back in like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs days, but recently I think Django's biggest problem is that it's long, and I think, again, Hateful Eight's biggest problem is that it's long. Yeah. It just runs too long, and the scenes run too long, and the dialogue stretches too thin.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work as well for me as some of his other crisper, tighter dialogue scenes.
Yeah, and I love the way he writes characters and the way he writes dialogue. I don't think anybody can quite do it like him.
And that is just as juicy here.
Yeah, and again, there is so much. There is a monologue from a certain character that is just like, you're gripped.
Yeah.
You're gripped.
And I think he
awesome.
gets great performances. I think
he really
this
does.
might be one of Jackson's best performances.
Yeah, it's up there since Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
it's up there.
But I mean, I think he's the secret MVP of Django personally. I think he's wonderful in Django.
Absolutely.
He's obviously wonderful in Pulp Fiction.
I think the three main
I think he's
leads
great
in
in
Django
Jackie
are-
Brown too. I mean,
Yeah, he was good in that.
but like this is his spotlight. He kind of takes the show a lot of the time, and then Jennifer Jason Leigh tries to take it from him. She's the
not
girl
in
in the
obnoxious
boys' house.
fashion.
She's the girl in the boys' house, and they put her
She's
through the
the
ringer, kind of like DiCaprio and Revenant. They put her through the ringer,
there's some
and she's
similarities there.
excellent. Kurt Russell channeling his John Wayne. It's a good performance. Walton Goggins is excellent.
He I didn't like him
up-
at first, but as the movie goes along, he grows on.
Second act reveals things about him, just his character in general, not like specific plot things, but like character-wise, that he just gets better and better as it goes along. And the dialogue gets crisper and crisper, but I agree about the violence.
It's just, and I think even the racial slurs, I get it. It takes place during that kind of time period, but it's still just like it doesn't need to. It's necessary to be there, but not to the extent that it is.
And there are
A little too
moments
much.
that are like very viscerally affecting.
Yeah.
And it works, but there are other moments where I'm just like, that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's excessive,
That's-
and it just doesn't work.
We saw that 3 times already. Why a 4th?
Exactly.
Yeah.
From different angles.
Yep.
The score is wonderful. The score is
great,
amazing.
great.
Should win the Oscar, but I don't know if it will. I think it will.
It might.
I think it will. But let's get to ratings and final thoughts. I think Tarantino-wise, I put it in the middle. I think
for the year, it's up
upper
there.
echelon, top 30, definitely. I mean, I've seen a lot.
Yeah, you've seen a lot more than I
might be
have,
like
but-
top 15, top 20 for you.
Yeah, it's top 15
we're
for
both,
me. But
we're both
I've seen-
8s, right?
Yeah, 8 out of 10. Really,
8.
Listen, 8 for 8 for 8. No. It's a really, really strong 8. Both that and Star Wars were like approaching 8.5, but never quite got there.
Star Wars did hit 8.5 for me.
Yeah, don't even ask me how I do this. It just does or doesn't. I have no rhyme or reason.
He just kind of guesses. He flips a
Yeah,
coin.
I'm like,
he
and-
flips a 10-sided coin, and whatever it lands on, that's what
All
it is.
right.
The 70
strong
millimeter as far, I think there's something kind of really funny about the 70mm, and he shoots in these claustrophobic areas and stuff.
I think it's on purpose.
I think it's totally on purpose, and I think it's really funny.
He's that kind of guy.
I think it's really funny and kind of sardonic that he does it. On the other hand,
it would make sense for Tarantino.
On the other hand, I really would have liked to see Django on like 70mm. That would have been nice.
Oh yeah,
that would have been really cool.
But do you think that he made this is arguably his bloodiest movie to date, and he did it in what's supposed to be the nicest way to film possible? Do you think there's any?
I think there is.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's a correlation with everything he does, to be completely honest.
Wouldn't doubt it.
But, well, now you're all caught up from break.
Yes,
You're ready for another great semester of MCTV programming. And, of course, the middle seats.
And as always, follow us on Facebook, Snapchat. Send us an email if you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, or anything you'd like to tell us.
Next week, it's looking like it's going to be all about the return of Poe the Panda and Kung Fu Panda 3. I hope you can join us.
I gotta catch up on those.
Oof.
But that'll do it for us for now. Those were our big three. This is Andrew. You can say whatever you want.
I'm pretty dope. I didn't write that.
Yeah.
Keep that
All right,
seat warm,
teleprompter.
everyone. We'll be back before your boredom in us awakens. Ooh, like the Force.
Hey,
And action.
The Human Torch was denied a bankroll. Renee Zellweger has an odd foot fungi.
Hey, buddy, yo.
I don't know my lines.
God damn it, Kevin.
What?
And action.